Well, welcome everybody to the employee Q&A session on COVID-19. We're here with Andrew Lenihan from Financial Stream. So welcome, Andrew.
Thanks, Michael.
Just provide a bit more information and update for people. So I'll hand it over to you and go through. So just have the stuff on the screen.
Very good. I thought today we'd just cover off on a few points that we've made in the last few weeks in terms of accessing the superannuation. And I wanted to put together just sliding around on this PDF, but just put together a few points so people could sort of methodically think through the process of whether they access their superannuation. So this is all about the $10,000 that you can have access to. In principle, it's a hardship provision, allowing people to access funds prior to June 30.
That's 10,000 before 30th of June.
Yes.
And
10,000
afterwards. And I think it's important to note it's up to, so you don't have to take
the full amount.
Yeah.
So three things I wanted to cover off is should you do that? Should you access your superannuation? What are the long-term impacts? And I've got a couple of examples that I'll run through.
Okay.
And what are the steps to go through and do that piece? So the answer isn't really a simple one. I think for many people, it's sitting down and discussing your needs and going through a process of what you should do before you actually go through that step. I know a lot of people have called back and thought that's a great idea, and let's go ahead and do it. And how do we go about the process? But let's just play through a few steps. So I'll just go down to my next slide. If you're in a position of financial stress, I think it's fair to say that you need to put food on the table. Then you should access those funds.
And we've spoken about this before, that to me, or to us, it's been sort of the last resort, inverted commas. If you've unpacked all the other options on your discretionary spend and home loan repayments and things like that.
Yeah, that's right. So just last week, I've sent out to just a couple of hospitality employees just a great little tool from Money Brilliant that I had access to. It just goes through money in, money out in their circumstances and helps people think about some of the choices they've got and how they can reduce expenses. So,
and can people find that online, or that just via ourselves? Or
the Money Brilliant itself is an app you can purchase for your phone.
Okay. Yeah.
There's also really the free version is very, very good.
Okay.
It's just it coordinates all the banking information into one repository, which is great, and you'll be able to sort of work through your expenses. So
just a bit of a budget, I suppose, personal budget going.
Yeah. I've got a PDF version of that, so if anyone would like a copy of that, I can sort of email that out to them. It's a version that Money Brilliant have made available. There's a few little tools on the internet that are useful, and I find this one quite good. So options, I think the first step for me is when you've got under hardship arrangements, as we went through last time, speak with your bank, see first cab off the rank, see if you can get a deferment of your lending payments. If you're in a rental situation, discuss obviously the options with your landlord. And also then start to look at some of the government stimulus packages that are available, whether it's JobSeeker or JobKeeper that you might have access to, before you start to think about accessing your superannuation, I think, in my view. If you've exhausted those options and still require money, then I think, then that is a choice that you can have then to go forward.
And the throwaway line is someone who's, as an example, has credit card debt at a very high interest rate, and that's still ballooning. Then that's possibly, to work through the numbers of accessing the super to bring down the credit card debt, I suppose, as just a throwaway example.
Yeah, so if you're paying I think most of the low-cost cards are around about 13 to 14%. Some of the more expensive cards are up around the 21%.
Yeah.
So in that case, it makes sense to me. I mean, you've got to weigh up whether you'll get that return back in the market if you sell down assets. And so those examples, I think it's straightforward, pretty straightforward answer. The worry thing for me is there is a long-term impact in terms of the effect if you don't access your put money back in the superannuation as well. So I'll just slide down to my next slide. So how do you access it? A lot of this is driven, as we mentioned before, through the MyGov website. So log on, get your intent marked off on the MyGov website, and go through the government prompts. And it's a fairly straightforward system to go through and do that. And then
so all through MyGov, you can start the process?
Yeah, it's just a radio box, tick box, where you can go through and put your preferences through. So I just put up on the screen, there's a couple of examples here. I've run some numbers based on average and long-term returns of a high growth super account, returning around about 8% per annum. And I've given the example if you're a 40-year-old and if you took out the $10,000 from super right now, the impact over that period of time up until retirement is around about $73,000 that you miss out on return. So it's not just $10,000 that you're taking out. It's more.
Yeah.
And it's important to take that into consideration.
And that's effectively the compounding interest, the beauty of compounding interest from a savings and a retirement and superannuation perspective.
Yeah.
Obviously, the downside is when you take $10,000 today, then you miss out on that compound
returns. That's right. And the other example I've got here is someone who's 30 years old. This is taken directly from a young chap I was talking to from the hospitality industry. He's under a bit of hardship at the moment. But the numbers actually show that the impact doubles from a 30-year-old to a 40-year-old.
In that 10-year window.
In that 10-year window, it's around about 162,000 compared to 73,000. And that's taken them right up to age pension time, which is age 65. So I recommend that you discuss that with your advisor and before you make those decisions, just so that you can go through a methodical discussion to make sure it is the right thing for you to do. So just go down to my next slide. So how do you do that? So it's been available for the application from the 20th of April.
So last Monday before last?
Yes. And you just need to go through, and we went through this on our last broadcast, but I think it's important to retouch on it. Just go through the checkbox, make sure that you're eligible, know your options, check your current super balance. And the other thing I wanted to highlight, is there going to be an impact on insurance inside superannuation, given the government has made some changes in that space.
And when you say insurances, we're talking about life insurance?
Life insurance and total permanent disability cover that might be under a group arrangement through your super fund. If you're under an industry fund, for example, Host Plus, HESTA, Australian Super, they generally have a life cover and total disability component as well. So just be careful there, because if you do reduce your super under $6,000, it might trigger that you lose that cover where you have to opt in again for that. So just going through the criteria, check that you are eligible. If you're unemployed, clearly you're eligible. If you're made redundant and your working hours have been reduced by 20% or more, then you can apply.
and not on there, I've just noticed a couple of inquiries on the business side of it. So sole traders who said their turnover reduced by 20%. It's another one that had a couple of inquiries there. And I'm presuming JobKeeper, and that's been rolling out now, it's still going back to your working hours being reduced criteria, I presume.
Yeah. But the government is refining every day. I can see that it's changes to that. So especially JobKeeper. How do you apply? As I said previously, just go through the MyGov website. Go through the process. Go through the radio knobs. Tick what you would like to do. It's pretty straightforward. So if you're eligible, the payments are expected to be paid within 5 days of the application.
Right.
As I said last time, I'm not sure how quickly that's going to be converted by the super funds. Knowing in the past going through these sort of processes to get payments out does generally take a little bit longer.
So essentially, you go through the process with MyGov, apply, and then I presume the tax office is the administrator behind the scenes, the agency, and then they will notify the super fund.
That's right. So I'll go through this here. So to answer that question, this is the usual response. The ATO will issue a determination to your super fund.
Right.
When that super fund receives that determination, they'll be authorised to release the amount from superannuation. If your super account is less than the amount approved, you can release the lesser amount.
And who makes that call? It's just super fund says you haven't got sufficient funds, we'll just release what the balance or something like that, or not sure.
Good question. Good question to take up a little bit later.
Check that out for next time.
So that lets you know the response. Not 100% sure. Also, just to note, this is not subject to AYG withholding tax and does not need to be reported in your payment summaries.
So just to clarify, that's not won't appear on your tax return as taxable income effectively, and no tax being taken out. So your PAYG withholding is typically the tax that comes out of your pay from your employers each fortnight.
Correct. I want to reiterate what we spoke about last time. Go through that process, make sure it's the right thing for you to do, and understand the impacts. But at the end of the day, if you need to put food on the table, then you need to do what you need to do.
And pay off some high interest rate debt, perhaps.
Correct. It's worth exploring all your options. There's one thing that was raised is this is the pension loan scheme for retirees, and that's accessing some funds through their property. So the government does provide that ability, but just do that with caution as well. So there's another opportunity there.
That's if you're receiving a current Australian government pension, is that?
So just tapping into the equity in your home under that pension loan scheme. And I just wanted to go through my last. I'm sorry, I keep pressing this for a PowerPoint, but it's on a PDF. But just watch out for scams, as there has been a notification from the ACCC on people unscrupulously calling people to assist with this process. Just remember just to make sure you touch base with your trusted accountant or a financial planner, financial advisor, that you've got a good track record with.
And that's an important point. So they have freed up accountants to provide limited advice in this space as well in the last week. But so just get good sound advice is our sort of message, and go through the process and make sure it's worth your while, or it's appropriate for your circumstances.
I think the next thing on the agenda today was just any updates further on JobKeeper. that from your perspective?
Yeah,
Michael?
so similar to the accessing your early super, JobKeeper was rolled out last week, and employers are getting their head around how that works. And from my perspective, working with small business owners, we've been helping go through identifying employees that are eligible, and the employer has to pay that $1,500 per fortnight gross as a minimum to employees to be able to get reimbursed. Yesterday, the HR announced that payment date has been extended to the 8th of May, and then the employer will get reimbursed. There was a bit of a bottleneck with some employers not having access to cash flow if the business has been closed. Last weekend, all 4 major banks have now got basically a hotline set up to assist small business owners as a bit of some bridging finance for that to happen. So that's another impediment that's been removed. So we're sort of probably now starting to see where people line up in terms of JobKeeper. Just a reminder again, if you're a casual less than 12 months, that employer can't access JobKeeper for you. So unfortunately, it goes into JobSeeker. Another one, a common question is where people have multiple casual jobs. So you might have been with one longer than 12 months, so you can access JobKeeper through that one employer, but you can't access JobKeeper twice. So JobKeeper is a reimbursement to the employer, so that's another important point to know. I've had a few people just get a bit confused. Does it go directly to the employees? It doesn't. So it gets paid by the employer into your employee's bank account. It's $1,500 per fortnight gross, less it is taxable income, so you do get some tax taken out as you would in your normal pay.
It's about $1,300 clear? Or?
Yeah, it's around $150 to $200 per fortnight is your PAYG withholding. And so that gets through, and then the government then reimburses the employer for that payment. So you're paid by your employer in that one, whereas JobSeeker, that is the Centrelink essentially paid and your normal eligibility criteria.
Yeah. So the rebranding of New Start became JobSeeker, and with the additional $550 per fortnight.
And so just another reminder on JobKeeper that it's not means tested. It's a very simple $1,500 per fortnight minimum payment to qualify from an employer's perspective. So it does mean you can get additional income. It doesn't affect that, whereas the JobSeeker is a bit more prescriptive on your income tests. From what I can gather. And I think, did we conclude assets ignored, or we're still not clear on that for JobSeeker?
The liquid assets normal test. They've waived that for that.
Okay, right.
Normally, you need to have more than $5,500 as a single, or $11,000 as a couple. Any more than that, it would impact on the waiting period.
Yep.
My understanding is that they have waived that criteria at the moment.
Yeah, so JobSeeker, we understand it, that we know income or asset test, liquid asset test in terms of having money in the bank. Whereas once again, comparing it to JobKeeper, there's no eligibility because it's more about your employment arrangement with that employer, not your own personal circumstances. So sometimes it works better, obviously, in that person's favour. To get that pay effectively each fortnight. Yeah. That's pretty much an update there.
Yeah. So pretty much what I'm seeing at the moment is if businesses are eligible for JobKeeper and they can afford to keep paying employees, that's great. But the fallback position is the JobSeeker arrangements. And my initial thoughts when this was rolled out that it was going to stretch a bit wider and it was going to be touch a few more, I suppose, people who can actually receive it.
For JobKeeper?
Yeah, for JobKeeper. It's a little bit more restrictive now than I first envisaged.
Yeah, because those employers need to meet a 30% drop in turnover test. So it's something obvious. We're in the hospitality industry, for example, where they either shut their doors or only doing takeaways. So they meet the criteria. In my client base, it does range. To work in property management, some qualify, some don't, depending on the circumstances. Some in the building and associated industries may or may not be affected. It's not a clear-cut case in some of the other industries.
The other thing I just want to comment about is it seems a bit more positive about the restrictions coming up in the next few weeks, which is good news. Relaxing of those, potentially staged relaxation. Just in terms of the hospitality side of things, which was interesting, I was speaking with a person associated with a local hotel, and they were just saying even if the restrictions get lifted, they still need to have a certain number of clients coming in to be able to make it profitable for them. So
that'd be interesting to see how that rolls out, that the restrictions might be lifted, but economically it might not be ready for them to
open up again. You sort of can't open for 1 or 2 people.
And just to go back onto JobKeeper again, that is it for a 6-month period. So once an employer meets the criteria, then that applies backdated to the 30th of March all the way through to, I think, basically the end of September. So it's the government's sort of given a 6-month window for some of these startup plans, for want of a better word, where the restrictions might be lifted, but either people are not ready to go shopping in retail shopping centres, or not ready to go out for go to the pub for a few drinks. So that'll be wait and see, I suppose. But I think the conversation has certainly changed from what next will be closed to
making that
open. So we'll wait and see. All right. No worries. Well, we might finish up there. So thanks for joining in. It's been recorded, so we'll just circulate that around in our normal methods. So we'll probably do it again. We'll do it again next week, and then we'll just see where things are at going forward after that. So thank you. Thanks, Andrew. Better close it. There we go.